Hello, it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Welcome to my channel. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. And please don't forget to subscribe. Today we're going to talk about travel. I'm telling you, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said to me, "Oh my gosh, Laura, I'm so envious of your life. I want your life. Oh my goodness, I want to travel, but I'm afraid. And why can't I be like you?" I would have like $3 by now. Yeah, okay, so maybe not so many people ask me, but people do ask me, and I know a lot more are thinking about it. Are you wondering why you're not traveling as much as you want to? I got some tips for you. Stick around. I find there are 6 main reasons why people don't travel. I'm going to list the 6 that I came up with, and I want you to tell me if any of these applies to you. Are these the reasons why you don't travel? Number 1, fear. You're afraid. Number 2, where do I even start? I'm just too overwhelmed. I'm too unmotivated or depressed right now in my life to even think about traveling. Number 3, who can freaking afford it? The cost. Number 4, time. I don't have time to travel. I have like a busy job. Next, commitments. I can't travel. I have children. I'm taking care of my parents. Or number 6, what if I just don't like it? It's just too foreign and unknown. Do any of those 6 apply to you? Let me go through each one and tell you why that's actually not a good reason and get you on the road. Because let me tell you, there's so much more for you than what's right here in this country. Let's work through these issues and get you on the road. I hope there's enough light on this. I am not home. I have a nice ring light at home, but I'm not home. I am traveling. I am recording this from Porto, Portugal, where I am for 1 month, well, 1 month in Portugal by myself. And right now I'm in an Airbnb and I don't have a ring light. Now that may seem like a lot to you. So let's get to this. Number 1, fear. What exactly are you afraid of? Because people are people, right? There are good people in your neighborhood, there are good people in your city, and there are people that are not so good in your city. There are good people in the city you might want to travel to, and there are bad people in the city you might want to travel to. I mean, you just don't know, right? And you're not afraid at home, presumably. So why would you be afraid when you're traveling? Keep this in mind. There are more good people in the world. There are more good people in the world. When you're traveling, you're going to find people who are going to help you out. They're going to help you read the metro map. They're going to help you exchange the money. They're going to give you directions. You're going to find that most people are good and most people are helpful when you're traveling. Keep that in mind. Generally, people are people. But whatever precautions that you take when you're home, you're going to do those same precautions when you're traveling, right? You don't walk down dark alleys at 2 a.m. by yourself at home. So you don't do that when you travel. You don't wear expensive jewelry. You don't flash money. You just do things that are appropriate when you're home, and you do those same appropriate things when you're traveling. So once you realize all of those things, let's talk about the fear a little bit more. Research where you're going to go. You can look, if you're American, you can look on the State Department website, and there is a rating of countries where they recommend you not go to. It's right on the website, and then they'll say ones that have a moderate concern or a low concern. Now that's for foreign travel, but you don't even have to start there. You can start right in the United States. Have you ever been to California? Have you ever been to New York City? Have you ever been to Florida? Have you ever been to Chicago? Pick somewhere in the United States that you've never been to and start small. You won't need a passport. You can find out a lot about that city and do your research. You can join a Facebook group about the city. You can get a book out of the library. You can look at videos online. You can do a lot of research prior to going to that city so that you feel comfortable and so that you know where to go, what neighborhoods to go into, where should you reserve your hotel. That information will give you peace of mind. And if you're still afraid, you don't have to go alone. Find somebody to go with. Go with your spouse, go with your girlfriend, go with your boyfriend. Take somebody with you, take your best friend, and travel together. I think if you start really small, that fear will not really be there. If you think to yourself, gosh, I've grown up in Ohio, I've never been to San Diego. So you ask your best friend, let's just go for a 3-day weekend to San Diego. You do your research, you find a hotel in your nice neighborhood, you decide you're gonna stay in La Jolla, and you're gonna stay at this hotel brand that you're familiar with, and you just pack up your bag and you go with your best friend. Once you realize that that wasn't so scary, you can then branch out to places that are less familiar. If you're gonna go abroad, maybe start first with an English-speaking country to give you some comfort. Face those fears in small incremental steps. Number 2, you are feeling too overwhelmed, too sad, too unmotivated to travel. Let me tell you, my suggestion if you're feeling sad is to travel. There are different things that work for different people. Maybe therapy is working for you, maybe antidepressants are working for you, maybe something else is working for you, but what works for me is travel. So give it a shot. Maybe travel will help you feel better. If you're feeling overwhelmed and unmotivated, my suggestion, like I mentioned earlier, is to really start small. Start with your own city. Just pick a part of town that you don't go to very often and book a hotel for one night. Just start with those baby steps. Once you feel comfortable doing that, pick another place in the United States, maybe on your same coast. You live in Ohio, maybe you want to check out Philadelphia. So start with the East Coast, then venture out to the West Coast. Then once you've got that down, I think you're ready to try Canada. Go to an English-speaking part of Canada. After that, the Caribbean. Go somewhere again where they speak English. Maybe check out the Bahamas. Then I'd say try Mexico. You're still pretty close, but it'll give you a little bit more of a flavor of international travel. It'll feel a little bit different. Once you've got all of that down, then you can consider an international overnight flight, like somewhere, maybe stick with somewhere that's English speaking. Start with the UK. Once you've traveled back and forth to London, you're a traveler. And then you can venture out to countries that are less familiar. Maybe once you've done the UK, you pick another place in Europe. Maybe that will be an easier step for you than jumping from London to Doha or from London to Shanghai. That might feel like a big jump. Think about those incremental baby steps to become a traveler, to face those fears, and to feel less overwhelmed. Got it? So let's review. Start with your own city, then do somewhere else in the United States. Then do Canada, the Caribbean, Mexico. Then go somewhere English speaking, but that requires you to do an overnight flight. Then do another place within that region. So let's say, again, if you do Europe, then do somewhere else in Europe. And then venture out to the Middle East or Asia, Africa, Australia, etc. You can do it. It does not have to be so overwhelming. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is cost, and this is a valid one. This is a valid concern. People think that travel is very expensive, and don't get me wrong, travel can be extremely expensive, but it doesn't have to always be expensive. So we're going to break this up into 2 parts. We're going to talk about before you travel, what you can do to help with that cost as you plan your travel. And then we're going to talk about what you can do once you're in country or once you're in your new city to help keep costs down. So yes, travel can be expensive. But before you go, the first thing I suggest you do is have a travel fund. And of course, it could be in a bank, but I'm saying if you have just like a little jar on your shelf that's labeled travel fund, it keeps it in your mind all the time. I think part of the problem is people forget that they're saving up for a trip and they run to Starbucks. No. That $7 coffee needs to go in your travel fund. So keep it kind of centrally located in your house so that you can keep remembering that you are working on this travel idea and you want to put all that spare change in there, create a little travel fund where you are thinking about it all the time. And this can be over quite a long period of time too. You don't have to say in October that you want to go somewhere in December. You can say in October you want to go somewhere in July. Give yourself time to plan that. Now, I'm not going to talk about ways to make money because that could be a whole other video. I'm just saying, make sure you designate somewhere where you're keeping track and putting money into a place to prepare for this travel. Now, second, don't travel alone. If you travel with somebody, you can split costs. So if you tell your best friend you live in Cleveland, you're going to go to San Diego, your best friend is going to go with you, great. Because now you're sharing the cost of the hotel rooms, and you can also share the cost of an entree. You can share the cost of transportation. You can share so many costs if you are traveling with somebody. So if you want to go somewhere, find someone to go with you to save in that way as well. And then third, choose a cheap destination. So if you want to go somewhere that's kind of expensive, what you can do is stay in the city nearby that's less expensive. Or if you're brave, you can just open up the app. You can check out Skyscanner. They're going to let you put in a date and you can say anywhere, and they will find the least expensive places for you to travel. That way you can say to yourself, I want to travel and I'm not really committed to going to a certain city. I just want to travel. Let the app choose it for you. Maybe you've never been to Oklahoma City and it's inexpensive. Check it out. Why not? You're still traveling, right? So choose an inexpensive destination. And of course, this can be for international travel as well. Maybe it's less expensive to go to Panama than it is to go somewhere else, and you've never been to Panama. Great. Go to Panama if it's inexpensive. So find an inexpensive destination. Now, the second part of that is once you're in country, there's so many ways to cut costs. And I've done other videos on this, but I'm just going to talk about 3 or 4 ways right now. Number 1 is accommodations. That will eat up a lot of your money. So don't go and stay at the Hilton. That's expensive. Stay at an Airbnb, stay at a hostel, just rent a room in an Airbnb. Or if you really are tight on funds, you can go, what do they call it? Couch surfing, where you just crash on somebody's couch. I personally don't feel comfortable doing that, but people do it all the time. Or you can house sit. Now, this is a great way to get your accommodations for free in exchange for either just keeping up with their house and watering their plants to maybe taking care of their pets. But often that is completely free. So you'll have to get to the destination, but if you're house sitting, your accommodations will be completely free, covered. Great way to cut costs. Also, go to the grocery store. You do not have to eat every meal out. That adds up for sure. I'm in an Airbnb right now in Porto, Portugal, and I went to the grocery store yesterday. I picked up potatoes and peppers and other fruits and vegetables and coffee and whatever, and I can prepare many meals right at home. I'd be cooking at home in the US, so I don't know why I think I have to cook out every single meal when I'm on vacation. No, it's a great way to cut costs. Then also transportation. You do not need to grab a taxi everywhere. Certain countries, ride apps are cheap. So in Portugal, the Bolt app or Uber are very inexpensive. But I also find that taking a bus is a really cool way to see the city. You might take a $1 bus ride from point A to point B, and you're also getting to see the beautiful city that you're in. So you don't have to pay for the tour of the city. You can take the bus. I did that a couple of days ago. I took a tram. It's kind of like a streetcar from one point of the city to another point in the city. And I could have hired the tour guide, and I think that was 30 euros. And this ride on the tram was 3 euros. So I saved a significant amount of money, and I still got to see the city. So once you're in country, there are a lot of ways to cut costs. So let's get rid of that issue too, cost. Number 4, time. I don't have time to travel. I'm a busy woman. I get it. We're all busy. So the way to figure out your travel is, again, start small. Start with a 3-day weekend. Bank those vacation days and put them together and take a week or 2 somewhere. Or you can even add on to a 3-day weekend. Do you have a 3-day weekend coming up? Stick on 3 vacation days and now you have a week, right? If you include that weekend, you can spend a whole week somewhere. Bank those days, take that time. You got to think about your travel destination as important as going to a wedding, right? You are going to get a wedding invitation. You'll get that save the date card in the mail, and they're telling you August 18th, you need to save the date for the wedding. And so you do. You plan your time around that. You're not going to miss your sister's wedding. So you plan the time, you figure it out. You need to do the exact same thing with your own personal travel plans. That August, the following August after your sister's wedding, you decide you're going to Croatia. Put it on the calendar, let your boss know. The key is you need to prioritize. Prioritize travel. Make the time for it. You have some time, so utilize that time for your travel. Number 5, commitments. Okay, this is a big one. I agree. This is a challenging one. I get it. You're in medical school. You can't just drop off and spend 2 weeks in Russia because you have a test coming up. You have an exam. I get it. Or you have a 4-year-old and you're a single parent. You got commitments. Or you're taking care of your aging parents. I get it. People have commitments. But here's the key. You have to take care of yourself too. If you are working hard to get through grad school, or if you are giving 200% because you're a mom, or if you are being a selfless caregiver, you also have to take care of yourself. Part of giving to other people involves self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So you're going to have to figure out a way to take time away from those commitments. So in the example of aging parents, you need to find a way to barter with somebody. So perhaps your brother-in-law, your sister and brother-in-law can take over for you for X amount of time in exchange for you doing something for them. If you have extra funds, maybe you can hire somebody to step in for you while you travel. If you got a 4-year-old, if you're taking care of children, you can do it over the summer or over breaks. Now, granted, those are much more expensive times to travel. Traveling over winter break is quite expensive, and so is spring break. But maybe you travel over a 3-day weekend, over Columbus Day weekend, Indigenous Peoples Day weekend, right? Maybe that's the time that you're traveling. Or during the summer. If you go to somewhere hot and you go in July, it's going to be cheaper. And as far as the kids, take them with you. Yes, it's more expensive, but you can take your kids with you. I traveled with a 3-year-old all over Asia. We lived in Asia, but I took my 3-year-old with me. When she was 4, I took her to Paris, right? When she was 9, I took her to Kenya. You can travel with your children. You may not be able to do exactly what you want to do. You got to factor in their interests. But a lot of the time, their flights are much less expensive. They eat less, you can factor it in. But don't let having a child at home keep you from your travel dreams. Take your kid with you. Now, if you're in med school, if you are in grad school, you have less time. I get it. And you probably have less money because who are we kidding? Med school is super expensive. But again, in order to replenish you, in order to give yourself more energy to study, it'd be a great idea to take some time away. And maybe you're just doing the next city over, but prioritize it regardless of your commitments. And frankly, I think the best way in terms of kids, if you have commitments with children, is to work overseas or take a job in a city that fascinates you. So you're a paralegal, you live in Mississippi, and you're a single mom. Well, maybe you get a paralegal job in San Francisco and you move there. Then you don't have to think about and dream about traveling to San Francisco. It suddenly becomes your reality. And that reality doesn't have to be in the US. I was really interested in living in Africa. So I took a job in Ethiopia. Hello, then you're close, right? From Ethiopia, I went to South Africa, I went to Kenya, I went to Zanzibar, I went to Tanzania, I went to Egypt because I was there. If you can figure out a way to work in a different destination, it will open up your travel experiences dramatically. And the last reason I hear why people don't travel is because they think they're going to hate it. Now, yes, you might, but you know what? You don't have to stay if you hate it. You don't. You can go home. You can go home. But really, the likelihood of you hating everything about your destination is not great. You might not like your hotel. You might not like the weather. You might not like the food. That's not going to be surprising, right? You're not going to necessarily love everything about your destination. But if you don't like the food, then go to the grocery store and buy some bread and peanut butter and call it a day. You can solve the problem of hating a place. And if you hate everything about it, which I doubt, you can go home early. So that's not really a reason either. So now that we've debunked those 6 reasons about why you don't travel, I want you to start traveling. Let me know in the comments below where you hope to travel to next. And I cannot wait to read them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.